Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3816 and today's date is January 12th, 2025. The title of the episode is, It Has Begun. Trump Investigates the Federal Reserve. Time to End the Endless Panic. Hey, listen, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you have already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments come in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmick, just clear answers and strategy built around our goals. Visit X22Gold.com and build your portfolio for the long term. That's X22Gold.com, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum. You can see at this point in time, Trump has begun the narrative. He's going after the Federal Reserve, going after the central bank system. And this is not by accident. This is to actually show the people that the Federal Reserve should not be running the economy of this country, should not be the centralized institution that creates our currency. And I do believe Trump is starting this narrative to build over time, because eventually what's going to happen, I do believe, is the Fed is going to be restructured into the Treasury. And what better way in showing the people that the Fed cannot manage the entire country when they can't even manage the building of their new office? And once you establish that, and you establish that the Fed is over budget, can't manage anything, and they've been lying to the people, it's a lot easier to show the people that the Fed shouldn't be running this country. And I do believe with discovery and what is going to go on here, it's going to be very, very difficult for the deep state players, the central bankers, to fight against this. Trump decided to use this tactic because people in this country and people around the world, it's very easy to understand. Because think about it, Trump is building the ballroom at the same exact time, and Trump is under budget, and things are going to be moving forward with the ballroom. And the central bankers, they have lied to Congress already. They're over budget, and they're actually making their office building almost like a palace. And think about it. They're making it look like a palace. They're making it look absolutely incredible. They're going to have parks on the roof, and they're going to have restaurants, and they're going to have all these different things, while the people of this country are suffering. So this is going to be very, very interesting moving forward. And we're going to be discussing a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, you could see that Germany, they're really having a very difficult time. Remember, they went down the path of the Green New Scam. They are going down the path of the Great Reset. And as they keep doing this and they keep removing their power infrastructure, their energy infrastructure, you could see that manufacturers are going to have a very difficult time, especially with the tariffs that Trump has already enacted on the European Union and the countries within the European Union. And right now, there's a lot of manufacturers, they are now moving out of Germany because, again, it doesn't benefit the company if they stay in Germany. So now we have Mercedes. They're moving their production to Hungary. 20,000 Germans set to lose their jobs. So once again, we have Mercedes. They're going to be building some of the cars here in the United States. And now they're moving to Hungary because, again, they're using actual coal, gas, oil to manufacture, and they're moving everything over there. Plus, it's not that far of a move. And you have to remember why they're doing this, because electricity rates in Germany are very, very expensive. And this is going to be a complete and utter disaster. And as time goes on, you're going to see the German manufacturing, they're going to lose more and more jobs. Actually, if you go back to 2023, Germany has lost 123,000 manufacturing jobs. And the trend is going to continue. And it's going to get worse for Germany until the German people say enough is enough here. But here in this country, what are we experiencing? We're experiencing all the investments coming into this country to build the manufacturing plants. Trump is getting rid of the regulation. He's lowering energy costs. He got rid of the Green New scam. Rates are coming down. Everything now is clicking. Peter Navarro put this out and said, trillions of dollars of investment commitments, foreign and domestic, are already flowing in to build factories in the United States. Bloomberg, this is coming from Peter Navarro, Bloomberg asked me about the timeline for new manufacturing jobs. Here's the math. For a new factory in this country ready to create manufacturing jobs, it takes about 2 to 3 years. There is initially a construction boom. That's happening right now. And then the factory jobs appear. So again, there's going to be jobs created from the construction of the manufacturing plants. So we're going to see a lot of jobs being created there. A lot of industry is going to have to support the manufacturing of these plants. And then everything starts to shift over from construction to the manufacturing jobs. Then he says that's the timeline. That's the math. And that's how reshoring actually works. Rome wasn't built in a day, but the trajectory of the U.S. economy and job creation is a beautiful thing. Trust in Trump. Absolutely. And as we build more and more factories, what the construction firms that are building the roads, the construction firms that are handling the electrical, the water, the plumbing, the furnishing, and everything else. I mean, this is going to make the entire country boom because it's not just one little plant. We're having trillions of dollars coming into here, which means a lot of this money is going to build the plants. A lot of this money is going to go to jobs. A lot of this money is going to go to those companies that create the furniture, create the electrical, the plumbing, you name it. So we're going to see a boom in that area, and it's going to get better and better and better as time goes on. And we could see that California, they're having a very, very difficult time right now because you could see a very, very big difference between the blue states and the red states. The red states, they're adding manufacturing. They're adding jobs. Inflation is going down. Fuel prices are going down. In the blue states, you see the billionaires, they're moving out of the blue states. Manufacturers are moving, companies are moving out of the blue states. Fuel prices are not really coming down. Inflation is not really coming down. You see the opposite of what's happening with the red states. And what's very interesting is you could see out in California, a lot of billionaires right now, they're looking to get out. So right now, about 50% of the wealth has left, taking their income tax revenue, sales tax revenue, and real estate tax revenue to other states. Rasmussen report says California billionaires were reliable taxpayers, 13.3% every year. They were the sheep you could shear forever. Now California will lose this revenue source forever. Perpetual election fraud ensures there'll be no public accountability, except by accident. And that's absolutely true. And we've seen this over and over and over, where you see all of a sudden, hey, there's other taxes. Fuel prices keep going up. We're going to tax the wealthy. Even if you've been out of the state for a year, we're still going to come after you. So what do you think people are going to do? They're going to go and they're going to flee California. And any state that actually pushes these policies, that's what you're going to see. And you're going to see California implode while you see the red states, they're going to get better and stronger. And it's going to be absolutely incredible in those states. And you could see every step of the way, Trump is going to take this to the next level. And what I mean by that is, yes, he's creating the tariff system. Yes, he's lowering the energy costs. He's giving people tax refunds. There's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. Soon, as the parallel economic system, the tariff system, continually gets stronger and stronger and stronger, he's going to start to wean us off the income tax. So I do believe we're probably approaching that very, very quickly because he's already started the narrative of going after the Federal Reserve, and we're going to be investigating the Federal Reserve, which tells me that he's looking to actually take the Federal Reserve and restructure it. But you just can't do that because people won't understand why you're doing this. Why all of a sudden are you attacking the Federal Reserve? Yes, in the very beginning, they didn't lower the interest rates, but now they're lowering the interest rates. He has to show the people that they cannot manage themselves. If they can't manage themselves, it's impossible to manage the country. And then as the investigation goes, you're going to see discovery. And I do believe there'll be other probes. Certain evidence will come out, which will then lead to Congress to say, wait a minute, what have they been doing? We need to investigate this. And you might see one of the committees in the House start to investigate. And I do believe as they investigate, they're going to say, wait a minute, we're going to have other hearings here because we're seeing a lot of fraud. We're seeing a lot of things going on with the Federal Reserve. This is going to build upon each other. And you're going to see in the end, the Federal Reserve is going to be fighting every step of the way. And at this point in time, you could see that this is the direction that Trump is going. He's going after the Federal Reserve. And I do believe he wants certain information to come out to show the people, look what they've been doing. And I do believe there's a lot of criminal activity, just almost like Minnesota, California, Ohio, Colorado. I do believe you're going to see a lot of criminal activity within the Federal Reserve, a lot of money laundering, a lot of the money going to the Democrat, different organizations, the NGOs, you name it. I do believe we're going to see a lot of that. And since Trump decided to go after Jerome Powell, it looks like Rhino Tillis is threatening to block the Fed nomination over Powell's criminal investigation because that's what's happening right now. So regardless how you feel about the Federal Reserve Board, I think we would all agree the construct of an autonomous central bank is outside the boundaries of our constitutional framework. Factually, the Sea Island Financial Group set up the Federal Reserve as a system of control over the U.S. economy that was completely unnecessary. It's almost like the EU. They did the same exact thing later on. They set up the EU with the ECB. It's an unelected body that's controlling everything. The Federal Reserve is an unelected body that is controlling the creation of currency. And they're also controlling the economy. So basically, hey, listen, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you have already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments come in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmick, just clear answers and strategy built around our goals. Visit X22Gold.com and build your portfolio for the long term. That's X22Gold.com or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Congress questioned Powell over the insane spending proposal by Powell over the new office building. And Powell characterized the construction changes that escalated the cost of the project from $1.9 billion to $2.5 billion as minor modifications. Well, that's $2.5 billion of taxpayer money. And Fed Powell decided to come out with a video because of the criminal charges, or the criminal investigation, I should say. But this is what he said, and he released it Sunday night. Now, he knew about this on Friday, but he waited to Sunday, which we'll be getting to in just a sec. So on Friday, the Justice Department served Powell, and he waited. Not just one day, but 2 days. But this is what he said in the video. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threat and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public rather than following the preference of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republican and Democrat alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Well, so far, they haven't been meeting any of these, especially price stability. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do with integrity and commitment to serving the American people. Thank you. So once again, they're using ridiculous speak to say we didn't do anything wrong and we're following our mandate. Really? No, you're not. Because again, you manipulated the calculations and you're not really following the mandate because again, we do not have price stability. We're seeing inflation of 3,000%. If they're truly doing what they said they're doing, when we came off the gold standard in 1971, we would have 1971 prices right now. Why don't we? Because they're not keeping the prices stable because they can't. Because why? Because as you keep putting the Federal Reserve note into circulation, it devalues the currency. And the more you do, trillions and trillions of dollars, the more you do, the less that piece of paper is worth. So have they been doing their job? Absolutely not. So again, he's lying. Unseen One put this out and said, if you don't think Powell purposely waited until Sunday night to release this to tank the markets instead of Friday evening when he got the notification, I have a bridge to sell you. And he's absolutely right. He did this on purpose, thinking, if I do this, the markets will tank and all of a sudden we'll have a major problem. But that didn't happen at all. Actually, you know what happened? Gold went up. Think about why gold would go up at this point in time. And like we've said before, I do believe Trump in the end is going to restructure the Fed. First, you have to show the people. You just can't do something without showing the people because the people won't understand. And the Fed and the fake news is there to protect the Fed. There are certain Ds and rhinos that are there to protect the Fed. And in the end, if you noticed that we've never actually had an in-depth audit of the Federal Reserve. So I do believe Trump is now just cracking the egg and he wants to see what's going to spill out. So this way we could take it to the next level. And I do believe this is why the midterms are so important because think about it. As he starts the narrative right now, and think about it, it's the beginning of 2026. The midterms are coming up. He's going to have this entire time because you have to remember things don't happen overnight. So we're going to have this entire time to have discovery, look into what they're doing, to understand what has been happening here. They might even find certain things. And I do believe this is all going to lead to the midterms. And the people are going to see the Fed. They're going to see Trump is improving the economy. They're going to see information come out about the Fed. And I do believe that we're going to actually win the midterms with everything that Trump is doing. And at the right time, at the right moment, Trump will have what he needs to go after the Federal Reserve. But when they keep talking about how the Federal Reserve is independent and the president shouldn't be telling him what to do, let's go back a little bit in time. And Jeffrey Tucker put this out and said, this statement is hilarious, ridiculous, definitely a keeper. Jerome Powell did not stand firm when in March 2020, someone who came to him and said he had to reverse his balance sheet scramble in order to make room for a global effort to quash a leak lab-created pathogen. I would love to have been a fly on that wall, just listening in. Jerome caved. Now he is whining like a man-child that his supposed independence is being compromised by a threatened criminal indictment over a profligate building project. Historians will have a hard time making sense of this hilarity, including the faux serious pose in this histrionic statement of pretend integrity. There is no place in democracy for a secretive and all-controlling central bank. These conspirators are toast, if not now or tomorrow, then eventually. A people's government needs a people's money that people can own and control, and a banking system that is based on market competition, not a cartel of big shots. Sorry, Jerome, you showed your cards 5 years ago, revealing exactly who and what you serve. And that is not the American people. These are the end times for the Federal Reserve. And I do believe that's exactly true. Because like we said from the very, very beginning, Trump is going back to the Constitution. I do believe we're going back to sound money. And now Trump is already taking the stance. And of course, optics have to be good for him. He's not going to be saying, hey, let's go after him. Let's indict him. Let's do this. He's going to let the DOJ do what they do best. And the optics for him are going to look pretty darn good. He's going to say, it's not me doing this. Yes. Do I think they should be doing other things? Of course they should. But again, he lied to Congress. So they're going to be investigated. Now, what did he lie about? Well, Julie Kelly points this out. Jay Powell testimony. There are not rooftop terrace gardens. Taj Fed renovation plan. Both terraces will be accessible and will seek to create usable outdoor space for building users. Jay Powell, there is no new marble. We are replacing the old marble, except where some pieces were broken during the renovation. Fed renovation plan, all new marble. Isn't that interesting? And when you start to look at this, you could see that, wow, they're using the people's money to create a palace where they control the creation of currency, and the people are getting poorer and poorer through their system. This should tell you everything you need to know right there. And I do believe this is why Trump has created the tariff system. He didn't just create it to say, hey, look, we have extra money coming in. No, other presidents have used this. We've had tariffs when we didn't have a central bank. Both really can't coexist because we have an external system, a system that brings in income, and then we have a debt system that takes the money from the people from this country. And every time we have a central bank, they get rid of the tariffs. Every time the central bank is gone, we use the tariffs to fund our government. Trump is getting prepared and ready to remove the central bank system. That's what this is all about. And those people who are protecting the central bank and the central bankers, they're trying to stop him. Why do you think they brought the case to the Supreme Court? Why do you think they want the tariff system shut down? It's not because it's causing inflation. It's not because it's bad for the people. It's actually very good for the people. It's bad for them. They're the ones who are threatened by it. They're the ones who are going to be shut down by it. That's why they're fighting Trump. Do you think any person that's going to receive a $2,000 dividend, you think those people are going to say, hey, let's get rid of the tariff system? Do you think the people who are going to no longer pay taxes because the tariff system is paying the funding of the government, you think the people of the country are going to say, let's get rid of the tariff system because I want to pay taxes again? No, the only institution that is fighting against it is the central bank. And yes, off of the central bank are all the criminals, the deep state players who profit from the central bank. And this is why they want a certain ruling in the Supreme Court. Now, if they do get this ruling, Trump is letting everyone know that it's going to destroy the United States. And he's absolutely right, because you have to remember, why did they say this is the perfect time for the Great Reset back in March in 2020? Who came out and said that? Klaus Schwab and at the time Prince Charles. Why did they say that? Because they were prepared and ready to bring down their system. And people say, why would they bring down their system? That doesn't make any sense. Because they were creating a new system. The new system was the central bank digital currency. The new system was the Green New Scam. The new system was to control everyone. So they don't care about their old system. They were planning to bring it down no matter what. So once again, do they care if they destroy the system right now? No, they don't. That's why they're doing it. And Trump is letting you know that if the Supreme Court rules in their favor, it's going to be a disaster for this country. This is what he put out on Truth. The actual numbers that we would have to pay back if, for any reason, the Supreme Court were to rule against the United States of America on tariffs would be many hundreds of billions of dollars, and that doesn't include the amount of payback that countries and companies would require for the investments they're making on building plants, factories, and equipment for the purpose of being able to avoid the payment of tariffs. When these investments are added, we are talking about trillions of dollars. It would be a complete mess and almost impossible for our country to pay. Anybody who says that it can be quickly and easily done would be making a false, inaccurate, or totally misunderstood answer to this very large and complex question. It may not be possible, but if it were, it would be dollars that would be so large that it would take many years to figure out what number we're talking about and even who, when, and where to pay. Remember, when America shines brightly, the world shines brightly. In other words, if the Supreme Court rules against the United States of America on this national security bonanza, we're screwed. And he did that in caps. Because what does that mean? That means the tariff system doesn't exist. It means the tariff system will not be able to take over the Federal Reserve. It means that the Federal Reserve will then crash the economy, and we have no way of bringing in income into this country except with a central bank system. That is why Trump has been building the tariff system from the beginning. Because if you have a system where the only way to fund everything is to borrow, and the people are responsible in paying this back, and you're enslaved to that system, and they take your hard-earned labor, You need something to compete with it. That is the tariff system. The tariff system brings in money externally. It doesn't cause inflation. It doesn't add new currency to the system that creates the inflation. It brings in money externally. That external money can be used to pay for the government. It could be used to pay the debt. It could be used to actually pay the Federal Reserve back. And that system brings in already existing currency. Just like a corporation who creates a product. Other people buy the product, that the money comes in from the outside. They don't go to their employees and say, listen, to keep our company running, we're going to have to take 20% from your salary. What do you think the people of the company would say? What kind of company is this? This is ridiculous. You have to take 20% of my salary to keep the company going? Well, think about the United States. Why would you take the money from the people to pay back a loan shark system to keep the country operational? It makes no sense whatsoever. You take it from the outside, you take it from other countries. And if we don't have that system, there's nothing to compete with the Federal Reserve. That's what Trump is saying right now. And that's why the tariff system is so important. This is why the deep state is threatened by the tariff system. This is why the central bank is threatened by the tariff system. This is why the fake news is threatened by the tariff system. That's why all those people getting kickbacks are threatened by the tariff system, because they know that all the money laundering, the criminality, everything, it all ceases to exist. And this is what they don't want to happen. But if you notice, and we said this in the very beginning, when the criminal investigation started, all of a sudden silver and gold are hit new highs. And you have to ask yourself a simple question. Why would that happen if the Federal Reserve is under investigation? Because everyone knows that when the criminality, the money laundering, and everything else that comes out, especially the point where, hey, if they can't manage their own building project, how are they managing the country? Well, everyone realizes that, wait a minute, if they can't do this, then the Federal Reserve is pretty much done. Are we going to be going back to sound money? Are we going to be going back to gold and silver? And people now are basically hedging that bet. And I think they're starting to realize what's coming down the pike right now. And when you really start to look at this, and as we go throughout this year and then even next year, you're going to see a lot of changes. And I think people are going to start to recognize that the Federal Reserve days, they are numbered, especially as the investigation picks up steam and evidence starts to come out about the lies and what they've been doing with the money. And I do believe this is probably going to go even deeper than that. And I do believe that once we get control of the House and Senate, Trump will take this entire investigation and this will go to the next level. And we might even see Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent come out and say, listen, the evidence that's coming out, maybe we should take control of the Federal Reserve. Maybe we can dissolve it and go back to the Constitution and sound money. And yes, you're going to need Congress for that help because, again, we have the Federal Reserve Act. We have certain amendments. Certain things need to be replaced. The only way to do that is to have control over the House and Senate. So if you start to step back and you start to take a look at this, you could see that this is where all of this is going. And I do believe gold and silver, yes, you're going to see them go up and down, but over time, I do believe you're going to see gold and silver continually move up and up and up. And I do believe Trump is just waiting for gold and silver to get to the position that he needs it to get in before he revalues gold and actually audits Fort Knox and many other areas. And think about it. As we go throughout this year and evidence comes out about the Fed, what do you think gold and silver are going to do? You think they're going to go down or do you think they're going to go up? I think they're going to go up, way up. And I do believe this is going to give Trump the ammunition that he needs. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.